I'm going to show you how I made these beads. Here, they look like they're metal, but they're not metal. They're made out of polymer clay. And they're perfect for the Shambhala bracelet if you want to use thick twine, because the holes are big. And you take a piece of clay. I like to use black with silver. It makes it look really antique. You can use any color clay. It doesn't matter too much, but you're going to be covering it with embossing powders. So you take your clay that's all kneaded and then press it down. Oh, I guess I should say, you want to use some sort of a mold, like a cookie cutter type thing, to portion out your beads. I just happen to have this oval one. And so you pat your little piece of clay down about the height of the mold. And then just take little slices out, like you're doing cookies, and press it out. The music might be too loud. So anyway, you make a few of these. I already have some already made, but you know, it doesn't matter how big they are, but you want to aim for something wearable if it's for a bracelet like this. But whatever size you're doing, you just make them all the same. And then you roll them into little balls, like this. And then I have an assortment of eyelets. These are all different color eyelets I got at the craft store. Got different brass, copper, antiqued eyelets, brass ones. And these are kind of like an antique silver color. So you press the eyelet into one side of the bead. Come closer. And then once it's through one side of the bead, you just kind of look sideways and stick your toothpick or whatever other thing you're poking your hole with straight through the bead. And then when you feel it poke through on the other side, then you put your other eyelet on the other side. And just make sure that it's looking pretty straight sideways, and if it's not, you just can mush your bead around so that it evens out. And then you just push it all the way through, and it will push out some of the extra clay inside, which you clean off. Just sort of wipe it off. This bead's a little crooked compared to the other one I just did. The eyelets will try to poke out of the clay, and the more you mush the clay around, the more that will stay. You want to get it so it stays in there, and that your hole is clean, so that when you look through the hole, you should be able to see cleanly through the hole. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage because you're going to mess with it quite a bit. So I have another one here that I've done. And to do the beads like I made them, I have this stuff that I got at the craft store from Martha Stewart. Microbeads, they're glass microbeads. I think that music's too loud. Just hang on, let me turn that down. This is my first tutorial video, so bear with me. So anyway, I pour the beads into something like a tray, and then you just start pressing the clay into, it's kind of like candy making. They make these things that are edible for candy. That's what these kind of remind me of. And then they won't stay in just like that. You do need to mush them in with your fingers. Just mash them in there, pretty much wherever you want. Mash them in without, like, trying not to mess up the bead too much, but it is going to get a little messed up. So you just keep mushing the bead into there. And you can put, I've done beads like this where I put tiny little chipped gemstones or like crushed crystal. You can put tiny little rocks or whatever if you want to make larger beads. I just like how this comes out because it makes the bead look like metal, and if you were to buy beads like this out of metal, they would be, you know, at least 50 cents each, maybe more. And I just like to try to make stuff instead of buy everything. So anyway, I'm pressing them, pressing, and then once you're kind of mushing your bead around, the hole will get plugged up. It's just what happens when you start squeezing the bead. So a few times you will need to go ahead and ream that bead out with the toothpick. I think a toothpick is a really good size hole, because if you were to use these beads in a bracelet, you could use leather. It's often hard to find nice beads that can be used on leather cord. So these are a good size to be used on leather. Now you can leave your bead like this, or to get this effect, which is sort of like a pewter metallic effect, I use these powdered pigments. This one is made for paint. I've had this forever. I've had this since I was in college, these powdered pigments. You can also get, these are sold in places that they sell polymer clay stuff. They're embossing powders, and these are fantastic for rubbing into the surface of your beads, like these gold ones. I used, I think I used this bronze colored powder for the gold ones. So for the silver ones, it really doesn't take much at all. Here, come closer so you can get it. Now make sure it's not fuzzy. So you just sort of rub it on. You rub the powder all over the black part. That's probably too close.
Okay.
A little, like, production challenged here. We're having to employ the children of the house. Don't worry, they're getting paid a fair wage for their videography skills. There we go. So there we go. That bead is all packed and looks pretty nice. Now, there's a few spots that won't get the little micro beads stuck to it, but I kind of like how it's not perfect. It's like, it's just kind of random like that. And so the most important thing is just to make sure that your hole is nice and straight, so when you go to use it, it's functional. And that bead is done. This is just a little tip working with polymer clay. This is a marble cheese block thing. It was made for cutting cheese. That's why it has this line here. You're supposed to take a wire and cut your cheese. But marble is a really great surface for working on polymer clay because it enables you to work with the clay without it getting too warm, because the clay gets just too soft if it gets too warm, and the marble stays nice and cool. So anyway, that's my surface. And so these will just get baked, and then they come out looking like this. And they're pretty awesome, and save you some money if you make them. And then I will probably do another tutorial to show you how to make the ones with the gemstones, because they're super cool, and some other like oblong shaped beads similar to ones you might see in Tibet. So I'm just going to get to work making more beads, and thanks for watching.